name is Daniel. I'm 22 and I work the overnight shift at a Walmart in rural Tennessee. I started working about 8 months ago. Most nights is the usual stuff. Stocking shelves, zoning aisles, unloading trucks. If you've never been to a Walmart inside after midnight, it feels strange. The place is too big. It's too quiet. And every squeaky wheel on a cart echoes like crazy. On weekends, there are maybe about 10 of us working the graveyard shift, plus one security guard. The store stays open, but it's mostly last-minute shoppers grabbing groceries or random things like paint or tires. This happened on a night in early December. I remember because they had just set up the Christmas displays and I was busy restocking seasonal items near the garden center. That place is creepy, especially at night. It's technically closed after 10 p.m., so the sliding doors are locked, but they're glass. You can still see out into the fenced outdoor section. Around 1:30 a.m., I noticed the glass door was cracked open. It was just enough for cold air to start seeping through, so I figured maintenance had forgot to shut it. I walked over to pull it closed. That's when I froze. Through the glass, I saw movement. At first, I thought it was a tarp blowing in the wind. Then I realized it was a person. Someone was standing out there among the mulch bags. They didn't have any shoes. They weren't wearing a shirt, even though it was about 40 degrees. They were facing the wall, completely still, almost lifeless. I knocked on the glass and called out, "Hey man, we're closed out there. You okay?" Nothing. He didn't even flinch. He kept staring at the wall. I could only see a silhouette. He had thin, long arms and he almost had a hunchback. For a second I thought it might be one of the local homeless guys who sometimes sleep behind the store. I immediately radioed the night manager, Mark, and told him to come over. He said to hang tight and not go outside. I kept watching. The person slowly turned their head like they could feel me looking. Even from that distance, I could see their eyes, wide open. They didn't blink. My heart started pounding. I took a step back. Mark showed up a minute later. We both looked through the glass, but the person was gone. Mark grabbed a flashlight and unlocked the door. I told him not to, but he went anyway. We stepped out slowly, our shoes crunching on the gravel. It was empty. We checked behind everything. Nothing. It was like he disappeared. The gate to the parking lot was still chained and locked from the inside, so whoever it was, they hadn't come through there. We told each other it must have been shadows or a trick of the light, but that didn't make sense to me. The next morning, when the garden shift came in, they found something behind the pallets. It was an empty sleeping bag with blood all inside it. It was torn down the middle. Someone had been living there. Security pulled up the footage. The cameras facing the garden center went black around 1. The cameras facing the garden center went black at 1. Security pulled up the footage. The weirdest part was when security pulled up the footage and looked at it. The cameras facing the garden center went black at 1:20 a.m., but they didn't come back on until 2:04, the exact same time as I saw the man. What's even creepier is that maintenance found the chain on the outside gate had been cut clean through, like with bolt cutters. I immediately transferred to another department a month later. Now every time I pass that section, I still glance at the door, half expecting to see someone staring back at me. I'm 25, female, and I've worked the night shift at Walmart for about 2 years now. If you've ever worked at Walmart, you know how much of a maze it is in the back of the store. We called it the tunnel. It was this long, dim hallway that connected the stockroom to the receiving bay. Half of the light bulbs were dead, and no one really liked walking it alone. One night, I went down there to drop off returns. The hallway was completely empty. Halfway through, the overhead lights started to flicker, and when they came back on, I saw someone standing at the far end. He was wearing a Walmart vest, but he wasn't anyone I recognized. He started walking toward me. I called out to him, "You work nights?" He didn't answer. He kept coming. He had this crazed look in his eye, like he wanted to hurt me. Being a female, I knew that was a dangerous situation to be in, so I immediately turned my cart around, but the wheel jammed. When I looked back up, he was sprinting. My heart was pounding, so I started to run, and the cart tipped over behind me. There were boxes spilling everywhere. I made it to the double doors and slammed through them. By the time I grabbed my radio, he was gone. We checked the hallway. It was empty. Cameras showed the cart falling over, but no one else was in the frame. 2 nights later, a janitor went missing. He was last seen mopping the same hallway around 3 a.m. His mop bucket was still there when they found it, but there was water slowly leaking across the tile, and there wasn't any trace of him. I was really close friends with the janitor at that time, so it really made no sense to me. After that, security started doing hourly sweeps. One guard said he heard someone whisper his name in that hallway while the lights flickered. They replaced the light bulbs, and the flicker stopped. But sometimes, if you walk down there at night, the motion sensor at the end still clicks on by itself. It's like someone's standing there, waiting. I was 19 when this happened. My first real job, working overnight shifts at Walmart. Not your typical first choice for a job, but the pay was pretty good, and I mostly worked unloading trucks in the back. I'm a bigger guy, so the freight came easy to me. One night we finished early, around 1:45 a.m. My manager asked me to take the trash out to the dumpsters behind the store. They sat at the end of this long, cracked driveway behind the building, right next to the tree line. As I pushed the cart of trash bags outside, the cold air immediately hit me. The sound of the automatic door sliding shut behind me made me realize how quiet it was. Too quiet. About halfway to the dumpsters, I noticed a car. It was parked in the far corner of the lot. Its lights were off, but I heard the engine was still running. I could see the exhaust puffing into the air. It was weird. It was like they were waiting for someone. Why were they waiting at this time of night? What were they waiting for? I dumped the trash, keeping my eyes on that car. Nobody got out. When I turned to head back, I started hearing footsteps behind me. Soft ones. They were walking really slow. I spun around. Nothing. But the car door was open now. I started to hear breathing. It wasn't from far away, it was from right behind me. I turned and there was a man standing just outside the pool of light from the lamp. Tall. He had a hoodie on, pulled tight. He had his hands buried deep in his pockets. "Hey man," I said, "we're closed. You can't be here." He didn't respond. He just tilted his head back a little bit to the side. I started walking back toward the loading dock. Then he took one slow step forward. I immediately bolted. I could hear his footsteps speeding up behind me. He was full on running. My heart was pounding so fast as I hit the door. I yanked it open and slammed it shut behind me. I locked it and ran to the break room, gasping for air. My manager came running when he saw me. We both pulled up the security footage, but the outside camera had glitched. It was at that moment I ran inside. When my shift ended around 7 a.m., daylight made me feel a little bit safer. There was a piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper when I made it to my car. It said, "Next time, don't run." I filed a report, but the camera footage never recovered. 2 weeks later, the same car was spotted across the parking lot, in a street to the side, at 2 a.m. It was the same make, it was the same color. And that was it for me. I quit that job. I didn't care how much they paid.